The Hedgeless Horseman here again, April 12th, 2024. First of all, thanks to the sponsors. I thought I would talk a bit about Inflection Resources. So there's been 3 news releases over the last few months, and if we look at the stock price, this was before the news, or it might have been trading here and it went up a bit on this news item. But basically it has not gone anywhere. We're talking about what, 1.5 million market cap difference or something on 3 news releases. So again, if we're to believe Mr. Market, absolutely nothing changed. Probabilities of a discovery didn't go anywhere. The market knew every single thing, every news release. Nothing at all changed the case, which is pretty much almost impossible, of course. But that's the market. That is how efficient the market is on a short-term basis, which is basically not efficient at all. So let's look at some of these news releases. Which one was this? Inflection Resources. This is the third most recent. Inflection Resources provide further update on drilling in New South Wales. It's a media resource. They had drilled an additional 6,636 meters, comprising 16 holes, bring the total to 13,524 meters. Favorable hydrothermal alteration interpreted to be associated with alkali copper gold porphyry system has been intercepted in deeper drill holes in Duck Creek target. Drill hole 17 intercepted an extensive zone of inner propylitic, that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, hydrothermal alteration dominated by yada yada yada. Magnetite, tourmaline, actinolite, pyrite, chalcopyrite, and locally bornite mineralization. That's high-grade copper mineralization, which is expected to be found in or near a copper porphyry, and they have the associated or they're seeing in the core, they're drilling into hydrothermal alteration interpreted to be associated with an alkali copper gold porphyry system, and they have some of the absolute hands down best experts in the entire world on these kinds of systems in this part of Australia. Initial scout drilling into Fairholme target intercepted a sequence of strongly deformed fine-grained biotite-bearing rocks with localized chalcopyrite plus-minus bornite-bearing quartz veins. Recent drilling at Duck Creek, Miamundi, Fairholme was reviewed by Inflection, blah blah blah. Especially the company first. Exactly. I mean, that's the kind of people they have on. The company is very happy with the ongoing drill program in New South Wales and to have drilled the most extensive sonar alteration on the Duck Creek project to date. We are particularly encouraged with the extent and intensity of favorable hydrothermal alteration in drill hole 17, which is interpreted to be inner propylitic domain dominated by pervasive hematite with lesser and variable amounts of magnetite, yada yada, chalcopyrite, and bornite is often found directly adjacent to copper gold mineralization and other alkalic porphyry systems found worldwide. The company is also highly encouraged with the first hole into the Fairholme target. There are still many geological questions to be answered, including the age of mineralization, but we are happy to have intercepted chalcopyrite bornite-bearing quartz veins with the first hole into this specific target area. Again, really good sign to see chalcopyrite and bornite, and these guys are wildcat drilling through cover. That is impressive. What's the odds of hitting those veins or chalcopyrite bornite anywhere in the world? The company is looking forward to follow-up drilling as well as continuing the program of first pass scout drilling in the new year on the large portfolio drill targets. So I don't know exactly how many rigs they have going. These are the target areas. And you can read, these are the holes they drilled at Duck Creek so far. Well, they've drilled a few scout holes all around. It was this hole 7 that hit chalcopyrite and bornite, and I guess had the most favorable alteration that jives with inner propylitic, the inner propylitic zone of porphyry system. And then they go on to Duck Creek geophysical surveys. 3 separate geophysical surveys have been completed on the Duck Creek exploration license, including ambient noise tomography and induced polarization magnetotellurics survey and ground gravity study. All data has now been received, and the results of the surveys are currently being interpreted by Inflection and AngloGold in conjunction with Perth-based consultants Myra Geoscience. Results of the integrated surveys will be released in the new year, although preliminary indications are that ant and gravity surveys have worked very well, and the IPMT did not appear to penetrate the post-mineral sedimentary cover. Okay, that's a lot of work. 3 different surveys. Fairholm drilling, you can read about that as well. Chalcopyrite, bornite, so obviously they might be close to something here. And then they list a bunch of other targets, and it's like most of it, I mean 169.9, 474.5, depth of 109 meters, 190 meters I was going to say. Test distinct circular magnetic flow, drilling intersected a heavily fractured flow banded, yada yada. Answers are pending, although no values of economic. I mean, most of this stuff they are doing is still very much scout drilling. It's like a porphyry, or I should say the mineralized portion of a porphyry might not be that large volumetrically, but the alteration can be like huge, like square kilometers, if I'm not mistaken, and obviously like let's say cubic kilometers. So they leave a big footprint, but it's the potassic higher grade core that's of interest. Basically the I was gonna say the, what do you call it, the seeds within an apple, if you know what I mean. Do they have? No, they don't have it here. Actually, I think they have a schematic here. Yeah, so this basically. So this would be like potassic, calc, potassic. So this is what they think the target might, well, the actual ore body might look like. And then it's outer propylitic and it's inner propylitic, the brown. And I mean, look at the scale bar. And it kind of tapers off. And this is just a cross section, obviously in 3D. I guess it would be more like a elongated blob in a sense. But it's like you can drill a lot of places and not hit the porphyry. First of all, depth. I mean, you could do it like that. It's like, and think of it. It's like this looks easier because it's just a 2D picture. Think of it like 3D. And you don't see anything on the surface. It's post-mineral sedimentary cover, so you're just walking on sand. Nothing sticks up. No alteration can be seen, so you just have to, probe areas. And they have huge land packages. Anyway, okay, what can we take from this? Well, Duck Creek is obviously appears to be top of the list in terms of interest. Fairholm delivered chalcopyrite and bornite, which is incredibly encouraging as well, because that's literally high-grade copper mineralization. And then, I mean, a bunch of other more earlier stage stuff. Here they actually hit 2 meters of 0.23% CU and 0.09 grams per ton AU. That's not ore, but 0.23% copper. I mean, it's not like that's background levels, if you know what I mean. The crust doesn't have 0.23. I mean, Jesus, in Sweden we're mining 0.23% copper in open pit. So it's like there's so much smoke here. That's the thing with like they have people from what is it, Western Copper, I think they were called, or Western Mining, BHP. It's like look at the. I mean, yeah, this is Alistair, of course. Former Kinross VP Greenfields, former CEO Exeter Resources, Tech, extensive experience in Macquarie Arc. I met Stuart Smith. He's a really good guy. Former Newcrest, and we're gonna get to that, but it's like Douglas Haynes. I mean, Cadia Mine. CRA, I think that's the predecessor to Rio Tinto, I think. I mean, you basically, I find it hard to even come up with a more, a heavier technical team. Plus, you have the Anglo Gold Ashanti people. That's why I don't like, let's put it like this. I am not questioning a single decision this company makes because insiders have also 28% of the company. 10 largest shareholders own 64%. Very tightly held stock. Do you think they want to succeed? Heck yeah. And you have all these people to guide. It's like the foremost experts on this kind of stuff, plus Anglo Gold. I don't question a single decision they are doing. And of course, the price, if you make a discovery, a real this copper porphyry discovery in this part of Australia, yeah, that could really be something. That's basically where a lot of the majors would want to own a mine. So this was the second last news release. Inflection Resources appoints Fraser McCorkadale as a director and Neil Adshed as advisor. Funny thing is, like I've met Neil, great guy, and I might be wrong, but I think he earned himself the nickname Dr. No while working for Sprott Capital, because he was very conservative. I mean, like no BS guy, if you know what I mean. I think the saying was that like he doesn't see a project he likes. So if he gets involved, given his reputation of like almost not thinking any project is good enough to invest in, let's say, I take that as really good signal value actually, because I mean I don't think he suddenly changed and just lowered his standards for the sake of it, let's say. So even though many people might not know who he is, portfolio managing investment strategies at Sprott Inc. for 11 years. Senior roles with Placer Dome as well, which is, I mean, a legendary company. And here you have Mr. Fraser. Fraser is an exploration geologist with over 35 years experience, and until recently was Newcrest Mining's global head of exploration from 2008 to 2023, during which he was directly involved in several discoveries within Australia, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, West Africa and Western Canada. Fraser has a deep understanding of the Macquarie Arc in the Cadia district in New South Wales, where Inflection is exploring its portfolio of 100% owned projects. Obviously this is a deck that's getting just extremely stacked. Let's see what CEO has to say. Alistair, I'm delighted to welcome Fraser and Neil to the company, both of whom possess tremendous and highly relevant experience that complements Inflection's ongoing exploration activities in Australia. We are pleased to have attracted such accomplished and discovery-focused industry veterans with strong technical and capital market expertise. Fraser's deep technical knowledge of copper, gold, porphyry deposits, especially in the Macquarie Arc, as well as Neil's global knowledge of the exploration business and capital markets will greatly assist the company's initiatives in New South Wales, where it controls over 7,000 square kilometers of exploration licenses. Do you think Neil Adshen has some good connections? Yeah, I think so. 11 years with Sprott Inc. I would think he knows everyone. That can really come in handy, on top of being a very, let's say, high integrity guy with a lot of experience and senior roles with Placer Dome. This guy is obviously a big gun in exploration. If you're the global head of exploration, and that's kind of interesting. It's like, okay, it's almost like cake on cake. How many geniuses can you have that are also experts on Macquarie Orc? Is it bad to add even more? No, absolutely not. But it's still interesting. It's like global head of exploration up until Newcrest got bought out by Newmont. So is he necessarily retiring, and this is a retirement job? Was he thought he would just stick it out to when when Newmont acquired Newcrest? I don't know how old he is, but he's obviously 35 years experience, so he's not the youngest guy in the world. But what I'm saying is that I find it interesting that such a big gun. It's not like only he's a geologist, but like the head of exploration for Newcrest up until the merger with Newmont. It kind of feels like maybe Inflection has even, let's put it like this, it makes it seem that the deal they have with Anglo is like that might not be the only thing in the pipeline. That's what this feels like when you add the expertise of these guys together. I might be wrong, but it jives with, let's say, it jives with ambition. And when you think about it, Anglo Gold, assuming they're gonna keep on spending money, yada yada, that's already getting taken care of in that case. They have that set up. Is it a possibility that they will do something else? They have other 100% owned targets. They have the Caron Gold project as well. And they've already shown that they're excellent. Again, with this technical team, whatever project they could find wherever in the world, maybe Australia, would probably be very good, obviously, and might be also relatively easy to do a deal with, because these are like the best people in the entire space when it comes to, well, I guess especially copper exploration. I'm not saying it has to be something like that, but again, assuming the Anglo Gold deal will continue for like X amount of years ahead. Okay, they have their funding. That belt, that huge project with years worth of exploration work, that's taken care of. I'm not going to say it's passive, because Inflection are the operators, but still, that's I was going to say probably a well-oiled machine. They expect to drill 30,000 meters this year, and might they have some other ideas? That's like, okay, we acquired this huge land package, thinking outside the box. Anglo Gold's going to fund it for maybe the next few or several years. Can we do something else? Can we get another one of these deals going, but or stake some other place and have another major fund that exploration. All of a sudden you have, you know what I mean? It's like then you have a company that's funding everything and working that, which could be over many years. I mean, especially if they aren't into a PFS, but that's like not too hands-on from Inflection, because I guess, I mean, if something goes really well, then Anglo Gold would probably take over operatorship, because they would be, you know, sooner or later the majority owner. So again, I don't know, but it is interesting. What it does not feel like is like, it does not feel like things are going badly. Because they have the money they need. At least, I mean, AngloGold is funding that, so there's that. They don't need that really. They don't need to find money. They have a lot of brain power anyway. Like, but to bring on Neil Adshed, which is a very well connected guy, portfolio manager, and also the global head of exploration, who obviously, I mean, if you're a global head of exploration, you're not only an expert on Macquarie, Ark, and Cadia, the Cadia district. Yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. Because, I mean, every news release or every hire, there's some I mean, there's some reason for it, like underlying reason. Sometimes, I mean, it obviously looks really good. I mean, Jesus, it's hard to get I would think it's hard to get a guy like this on board, and to get Dr. No on board of everything sounds very hard. So, might just be a stamp of approval that, hey, I mean, we really like what you're doing here. We want to be a part of it. So, going to the latest news release. Inflection Resources provides update on geophysical surveys, multiple new drill targets defined on Duck Creek project. Pleased to provide the results of the various geophysical surveys completed on the Duck Creek project in New South Wales, Australia. All surveys were conducted as part of a multi-year exploration agreement with AngloGold Ashanti. One thing that I think is interesting, again, it's like there's a reason for everything, right? Obviously, this is you saw from the previous news release. I mean, they have so many targets, and Fairholm with Shalco, Pyrite, and Bornite. This news release only focuses on Duck Creek. That alone should tell people that, I think, hey, we really like Duck Creek. It gets its own news release. I don't think it has gotten a, you know, I don't think there. I might be wrong, but I don't think there's been a, you know, only a Duck Creek news release before. They all tend to update the market on, you know, portfolio wide, kinda like in this one, where it's like they go through a bunch of early stage targets. So this I think tells us that they think Duck Creek is looking good, or let's say is a bit special. Or at least it deserves its own news release, so it's material. And then they go through results from the 3 separate geophysical surveys completed on northern Duck Creek. Exploration licenses have been received and interpreted. The surveys include yada yada. Was considered successful and clearly highlights several previously unknown features of interest in the prospective basement sequence. The different features of interest are interpreted to represent potential intrusive bodies, zones of hydrothermal alteration, and kilometer-scale structures. A ground gravity survey has provided much-needed high-resolution data to guide the positioning of additional drill holes. Several distinct gravity features have been identified which will require drill testing with the gravity lows interpreted to represent possible deep-seated intrusions at depth. And the next phase of Duck Creek drill holes have been defined by combining data from the ant magnetic and gravity surveys with drill hole sample geochemistry and alteration identified in inflection drill core. So this is obviously some heavy triangulation going on. They have drilled some holes. They've sampled the geochemistry, and that's like I think that includes the green rock triangulation method, and alteration identified in inflection drill core. So they have core in the ground. They have chalcopyrite, bornite. They have X amount of holes that, yeah, so these are the holes. Some of them will tell us like, oh, okay, it's not as hot here. This might be hotter. 7 is actually the one that's been hottest so far. Okay, so what we know is that they have hit what is believed to be porphyry alteration. They have hit chalcopyrite and bornite, which is high-grade copper mineralization. Balance of probabilities would suggest in that case that if you're finding copper and copper mineralization and porphyry alteration, that there's at least one porphyry somewhere here. And they did this, or these, 3 geophysical surveys on top of everything else they have. So all those things together, what they saw in the core, interpret the structure of interest also. Okay, that's interesting. What they saw in the core, what the geophysicals, including the ant survey, suggest. So now, with all that, that's even more, not boots on the ground, but it's like now they are more prepared than ever. Now they have more clues than ever. And they came up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 distinct targets. And you can see, most of them line up with something. Here you obviously have some kind of, what is this, ant survey? Seismic velocity. Well, that's above my pay grade. But obviously you see some kind of feature here, 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 some kind of feature here. And actually this is, happens to be a low in this survey. But so, it I guess suggests that there's some form of rock, some form of body. And, it looks circular as well. So, let's see, did they say what the next plans are? Well, they already said that, I think. Let's see. And a lot of this is like, again, way over my pay grade, but the gist of it is, it's, I was gonna say, pretty understandable that the more data you have, the more ways you have at looking at something, the more different tools you use. You learn some new dimension of what's going on or what might go on. And the important thing, I think, is again that previously, or the first holes, they were kind of not drilling totally blind, but they had, what was it, like, mostly magnetic and I guess gravity features, but not the highest resolution. So that was still kind of like poking around in the dark, sorta. So this should obviously help a lot with like, where is this damn thing or things actually? So they drilled, okay, we've hit porphyry, porphyry alteration, we've hit copper mineralization. So either we just keep on probing around, or we chill a bit do a bunch of surveys, and I assume this ant survey is like, I mean, there's a reason why they do it. I mean, that seems to be the main driver of the target generation. So I mean, these holes tells us that there should be a porphyry somewhere in the vicinity. We have porphyry alteration, we have bornite and chalcopyrite, but where is the porphyry? So it's not like these are totally blind features, like, oh, we see a geophysical feature, could be whatever. No, we know there should be a porphyry body, at least one somewhere here, because they're hitting porphyry alteration. Now they have 6 different targets. Of course, porphyries tend to show up in clusters. And Cadia is a cluster. North Parks, I'm pretty sure, is a cluster. You can see the scale bar here, 1-2 kilometers, and this is only a part of the Duck Creek property package. But again, to get back to my point, this news release is only about Duck Creek. That should tell us that they think this is material, significant, and that Duck Creek is, well, that they're excited about Duck Creek. It's not a footnote, it gets its own special meaty news release. And of course, the interesting thing is that is only quote only. Where's Duck Creek? Duck Creek here. And even Duck Creek, I think. Do we have it here? Yeah, so I think that's basically, let's compare it a bit. So that's only, if I'm not mistaken, that's only focused on that area, which would be, I mean, it's like this area. So it's just a small inset of the overall kind of, let's say, Duck Creek area. So they have 6 brand new targets at Duck Creek with known porphyry alteration. Hottest alteration seems to be in hole 7. These are not far off from hole 7. Well, they're even closer, a bit closer to the other ones. But it's like, I mean, nothing is exactly by the textbook, of course. They could, I guess, be stretched out, or for some reason that way. I guess, you know, I don't know. I mean, the what do you say? The geometry of the body or the alteration, whatever. It's like, we know there's porphyry mineralization. I mean, one would think that one of these should be the porphyry, which is the source to the porphyry alteration they're seeing in the holes. What is the chance of success here? I don't know. Is it 0? No. What is the chance of success? I don't know. What's the price in case they find something of significance? I mean, that's, of course, as always, impossible to say. They have set out from the start to only go for big targets. There's features all over the place, I was going to say, but they only cared about features that could be, let's say, explained by big systems. So they're elephant hunting. That's the only thing they're focusing on, elephant hunting. And obviously Anglo Gold wouldn't be chasing something small either. So then we get to, okay, this is how it looks. So according to Mr. Market, absolutely nothing changed. This was not an exciting news release. This was not a non-exciting. This wasn't a negative or a positive news release. Absolutely nothing changed. Whatever the chance of success was priced in before that Inflection would ever make a significant discovery is completely unchanged after this news release. That's what the Mr. Market is saying, given that it doesn't revalue it at all. And here we have the share price, 17.13 million Canadian. I think they have, what maybe, do they say how much they have in cash? Okay, it doesn't say what they have in cash. I mean, Anglo Gold is footing the bill anyway, but let's say, I don't know, 1-2 million in cash or something. So it's 17 million. Let's think about this. They have 6 targets at Duck Creek. 6 or 17 divided by 6 is 2.83 million. Okay, 2.83 million. It's hard to say. It's like, is one porphyry body alone could that be worth $1 billion? I would think so, possibly. All we know is that each of these targets is pricing in. Let's say let's just work it from the end and back. Let's take 1 billion. I mean, KDA, just to give some perspective, KDA was booked at $10 billion. But that's a complex, there's more than one body. But that was booked at $10 billion. If we take the whole Duck Creek, shebang, we consider those 6 targets as one target. 17 divided by, let's say, at least, the threshold is $1 billion, and they would get 25% plus a 2% NSR. So let's say equate that to 35% project interest, which is 350 million. So it's pricing in, if they only had Duck Creek, forget about all the other projects, forget about the 23 different target areas beyond this, Fairholm, forget about Karen, forget about 100% owned projects picked by some of the world's best geologists. If we just take the Duck Creek area, one could say it's pricing in that they will 4.86% chance that they will find something that's going to be worth one day $1 billion, and they get 25% plus a 2% royalty. Is that optimistic by the market? Is that rational by the market? Well, we have to consider the fact that whatever they could find could also be worth a lot more than $1 billion. If we're talking another Cadia, that's another 10x over the long term, at least. In that case, it's pricing in a 0.48 or 0.49%. 0.49% chance of finding Acadia, or 1% of finding half Acadia, and so on and so forth. And that, of course, is for just this one target area, where it's actually just within this portion of this target area. Similar scale to North Parks. I don't actually remember what the value might be for North Parks, but as far as I understand, somebody recently acquired that asset, and it has like a it is like, I don't know how many decades worth of mine life. Probably that's a generational asset, generational complex, could be churning out gold and copper for I don't know, our lifetimes probably. Obviously a big deal. I don't know what the economic value is to find something like that, especially in a future where copper, there's a copper shortage. Huge value, I would think. And the funny thing, or not funny, Greatland Gold, which discovered the Javieron deposit. I think Newcrest was the partner in that. Newmont doesn't seem as interested to push that project forward. I think they put it up for sale. But I'm pretty sure Greatland Gold, with their 30% interest, peaked out of a market cap of like, I think 1.2 billion. And I've at least seen it trade for like 700-800 million and stuff like that. I don't know where it is now. I mean, this bear market plus the fact that is this correct? I don't know. I mean, it seems weird, obviously. February 2000. Okay, I don't exactly. Let's see here. Mineral resource of 8.4 million ounces AU equivalent. Market cap is 659 million. That's for, I think they own 30% of it. Where is it? 35. Okay, 30%. And this is, let's see here, Greatland Gold. Again, we're right now at obviously a sentiment low. Let's see here. Oh yeah. I mean, it's come off quite a bit, and that's just from December 2003. It was over, around twice the size. So, just a few months ago, Greatland Gold, with its 30% minority interest in Javieron, well, they have other projects as well, but had a market cap of around 1.2 billion Aussie dollars, which is, I mean, somewhat similar to Canadian dollars. Again, a 30% interest. I don't know who has the net smelter royalty, or if there are any royalties. Maybe they have royalties as well. Otherwise, I mean, if we include the royalties for Inflection, I mean, implicitly they, with the net smelter royalties, as far as I understand, that's 1% NSR is kind of akin to like 5% of a project. So with your 25% interest plus that's why Great Bear, so Great Bear royalty sold for so much, because I mean, if they had, I think, 2% royalty, that's like 10% of the project's value, and I think it sold for around 200 million, which would be akin to a $2 billion project, and the Great Bear was bought for 1.8 billion, so it kind of rhymes. So in that case, it's more akin to Inflection getting 35% project interest, which if Greatland doesn't have a royalty on it, or if there is no royalty, whatever, Inflection would have 35% relative to, or versus Greatland's 30%. So in theoretically, Inflection could have a higher ownership percentage or whatever they find than Greatland Gold has at Javieron, and they reached a market cap on their Javieron project, which the funny part is, like, I think, yeah, it looks somewhat similar to a porphyry blob, I was gonna say, but I don't think anybody really exactly knows what it is. But that's also under cover, base of Permian, whatever. So it's like, it's also a hidden deposit, which is interesting. But I mean, you can see the scale bar here. I mean, even this one, it's deep, but it's like thickest part is what, 350 meters. point is that it's like 350 meters. That's like here. I mean, that could be hidden there or there or there or whatever there. Okay, but yeah, back to the point. So this is a minority owner, 30% of the Javier in Australia. They reached a $1.2 billion valuation a few months ago on their 30% interest. So, and I used, when I did this, simple math, I assumed a $1 billion for the entire shebang and 350 million as blue sky belonging to Inflection. Whereas, again, in this case, this minority one had reached a recent peak of 1.2 billion, not 250 or 350. I would say the gist of it, or brass tacks, or however you would say, is that it's just god awfully low chance of success priced in. This is pricing in almost no shot in hell that they're gonna make a discovery in anywhere anytime soon, within the next 5 years, or I should say ever, actually, because if they made it in 2 years, I mean, if they make a discovery in 2 years, if the market would know that, if anybody would know a significant discovery, this would obviously should in that case be trading 10-20x higher. So what I'm saying is that it's kind of like, okay, the market is not giving Inflection much hope of finding anything, not making a discovery. There could be something along their, I don't know how long this is, 200 kilometers or something. And of course they have more projects as well. But anyway, over their 7,000 square kilometer land package, no chance. And this is, I might have mentioned it before, but like, just look at this strike, look at the combined strike here and there, add that together, and here you have Cole, North Parks, Tomingli, here you have Cadia and Boda. If you add these on strike with these, then you kind of have a similar strike length, maybe a bit longer actually for these. But my point is that we don't know for sure, of course, but it's like, strictly, if we're talking strictly strike and they are correct about this, that this is the continuation of these belts, it should be, there should be, based on balance of probabilities, like one Cadia, one North Parks, one Tomingli, one Cowell, and one Boda hiding here. That's obviously glorifying it, or making an ideal situation out of it. So one can't do that. But what are the odds that there's not going to be a single discovery, that they get everything wrong, given that they're already hitting porphyry mineralization plus chalcopyrite and bornite? Something is there. Something has, porphyry alteration comes from a porphyry. All I'm saying is, the more I think about it, the more I, think this is cheap. And that is why this is actually, even though it's pre-discovery, in a sense it's very high risk, high reward. But my thing is that, mathematically speaking, it should be almost impossible that this is not cheap. I mean, it's pricing in no chance that any of these targets are the real deal. There's certainly pricing in no chance that this is a North Parks complex. And of course, let's say they drill and they miss, and it's like, yeah, the market was totally correct. No, that's bullshit. That's outcome dependent. These are the sharpest guys in the entire world working on this, with known or confirmed porphyry mineralization. There is something here. We don't know what size, if these are the areas where it actually is, or maybe more than one pod, but it might be. And the market is not, the market is suggesting that there is no chance, pretty much. Because it's not only these 6 targets, it's all the other targets. Anyway, uh, anyway, yeah, so yeah, I just like. I mean, I think this is one of the most unique cases from, it's like, from a risk reward perspective. There is of course merit in, like, okay, well, I'll buy after. Uh, we can just buy after the. If they hit something after a discovery, that's also, I mean, yes, that's certainly one way to go with a low risk approach. My thing, kinda, is that, well, I think this story is so cool. I think this could. I mean, okay, let's dream a bit here, if I may, and of course this is blue sky talk, all of that. In my wildest dream, I see Inflection making one or more significant copper porphyry discoveries within their land package. Legit, large, long-lived block cave operations that, like, Cadia North Parks or whatever. It's like, they could be throwing off cash flow for decades to come in Australia, which I assume will be a tier 1 jurisdiction for a long time yet. Cadia is an absolute cash cow, for example. And of course, I mean, it doesn't mean, first of all, if they find something, it doesn't mean it's a tier 1 deposit just because they hit the porphyry. I mean, there are others like Boda, for example. Alkane Resources, I don't know exactly what. Well, 417 million. But I think they own 100%. If I'm not mistaken, I talked to someone, I think that Alkane went up, I don't know how much, they, on their discovery hole at Boda, I think that stock just absolutely rocketed, if I understand correctly. It would be fun to go back and look that up. My point is that, and of course, I mean, 417 million, that's not chump change, really. Even if you find a Boda in that case, I mean, what's 417? What's point? 145 million. I mean, if you had 25% interest plus 2% NSR on their market cap, but they might have other stuff as well. So I'm just thinking out loud here, but that's still 8-bagger, I was gonna say. Blue Sky, you bought this at around, oh, not this. You bought this at around 7 million CAD. 7 million CAD. Inflection over the next 1 to 3 years, starting maybe, who knows? I mean, they can obviously make a discovery at any point in time. But it's like over the next 3 years, they make one or more significant discoveries that ranges all the way from 1 billion to 5 billion to 10 billion in value. Because again, a lot can happen in the copper space as well. So I mean, it's also, I mean, if you were a total long-term hodler, you would be needing to price in the fact that the belief is that copper is gonna go into a shortage. So if you, let's say, never sold, you would automatically get that exposure as well, because you wouldn't be trading it. So let's say Blue Sky. It's like copper goes into a shortage. Maybe it's already started. They make 1 or 2, let's say, North Parks type discoveries. I'm not 100% sure how much North Parks is worth. Let's say 2 billion. They get 25%, or you get 25% of two North Park complexes plus 2% NSR on both, meaning you have 35% ownership. I mean, just the royalty alone, if that's 10% of a 2 billion project, that's that's 200 that's 200 million times 2, 400 million just in the royalty, and then the interest of both, which is 0.25 times 2 billion times 2, so that's 1,000 plus 400, that would be 1,400 CAD, and that is, or let's say, they do some dilution, so let's say 20 million. That's a 70 bagger. If it's a Cadia, one Cadia complex alone would be worth more than two, I guess, North Park's, not 100% sure, but Cadia alone was booked at 10 billion. So this is like long-term total blue sky kind of stuff. That is what I find so cool, that literally we don't know it at the time or today, but literally we might be looking back like, wow, Inflection traded at 17 million in 2024. 2 years later, they might be, let's say, one of the hottest copper exploration stocks. They made a discovery, everything has changed. AngloGold is drilling like crazy. It looks like they have a monster discovery. And let's say slap on a full-blown bull run in copper at that point. I mean, it's just salivating to think about. And the best part is that I don't need that to be a high probability, because it's so lowly priced that if that turns out to be true, it could pay for 20 inflections that didn't hit anything at all. That's the high risk, high reward portion of it. I think there is a pretty good chance that they will find at least make one significant discovery over this land package. A lot of that has to simply do with the balance of probabilities of just looking, okay, where this stuff is outcropping and where people have actually explored for it. You have a Cowell, a North Parks, a Tomingli, a Boda, and a Cadia over this kind of land area. And this is what they are working with. Question is, okay, how deep is it? I mean, etc., etc. That's my point. This has been one of my favorites for a long time, and of course this is one of those cases where it's like they have their experts, they have the amount of brain power they have. It's just daily it's just prodding along, and they've been drilling, getting more information. Boom, maybe one day, boom, yep, they found something, shoop, and the rest is history. I mean, that's kind of it. If I never traded Inflection, those are the kind of the only, I was going to say, outcomes there are. I come back in 3 years. Either they won't have hit anything and it's going to be trading around 10 million or something, again, given they have other projects as well. So it's like, I don't see how they kill this story. Can it go down in price? Sure, but it's like, It's almost like a ticking time bomb, basically. Because it's not priced at 100 million or anything. I mean, even if you threw away that land package, I mean, they still have. Where's the other ground that they don't have? Here they have the 100% on targets. So they have a shot. I mean, given the people that are involved, they could raise some money to test some other targets. I think it's undercover as well, so it's like kind of high risk. But they also have the Karen Gold project. I mean, yeah, well, I guess yes, it could trade down to $5-10 million if they throw away this entire Anglo Gold JV. Still, I think it's too cheap. But this is one of my, again, I don't like pre-discovery plays that much, but this is absolutely one of my favorites because it's so cool. Because they basically staked an empire, and if this empire happens to host uh, anything similar to what the outcropping empire hosts down here, that could be a life-changing thing. That doesn't mean I'm all in. Consider me highly biased. I own quite a bit of shares of Inflection. They're a sponsor company as well. Do your own due diligence. Again, this is not a bet the farm type play, but I do honestly think it's one of the best high risk, high reward stories in the space. Thanks a lot for listening. Not investing advice. Bye.